The content of this program represents the opinions, research, and observation of the host and his assessment of scientific evidence available at this time. None of the statements, claims, techniques, dietary guidelines, or supplements mentioned in this program have been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The information contained herein is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for standard care provided by medical practitioners. Any application of the advice presented here is at the listener's own discretion or risk. The information should not be used for self-diagnosis or application. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before beginning any new nutritional, exercise, or lifestyle improvement program. The host and this station disclaim any responsibility for any adverse effects arising from the use or application of information contained in this program.
Welcome to the premiere edition of Health Alert with me, your host, Lee Brunellen. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a local clinical nutritionist, and I've been practicing here in Victoria for nearly 10 years. My wife and I have helped thousands of people in Victoria and surrounding communities experience real health and vitality. What is really the definition of real health and vitality? Actually, we'll get to that in just a minute. But for just a second, think about what does it mean to be really, really healthy. Most people I speak with think that if they're not experiencing any symptoms currently, that means they're healthy. No, all it means is that you don't have any symptoms, which usually means you're not having any pain or vomiting or diarrhea for the moment. Maybe you're not having indigestion, gas, bloating, or belching. But you know what? That is not health. Real health means that you have mental clarity, lots of energy. You can easily maintain your weight. You never have gas, bloating, or belching after eating. You have a strong, healthy libido, along with satisfying sex. You can easily handle any stressful situation without it affecting you in any way. You sleep a full night without waking up at 2:30 in the morning and have difficulty turning off your mind. Have you ever experienced that? Instead, you wake up ready to tackle the day, looking forward to facing new challenges. And so I ask you, do you feel like that? In fact, how long has it been since you've felt like that? Have you ever? The goal of this new radio program is to give you the information, the tools, and the power to realize that kind of health for yourself. Does it seem like an impossible dream to you? Probably. To at least some of you listening, it does. But in future shows, we're going to interview real people from right here in Victoria that thought just like you did. And once they got on a health improvement program, their assumptions and what was possible to experience in their health just went right out the window. But what is a health improvement program? Well, it's a systematic process that builds the body's health step by step by specific dietary changes, professional whole food concentrated supplements that are identified just exactly for what your body needs, along with life skills and life balancing. You can start experiencing what real health is like. Now, as I said, this radio show is designed to give you, the listening audience, the tools and information you need to enjoy real health. I did not say it's going to be the same mind-numbing spiel that you constantly hear from your television, radio, see on the internet, or read in a book or magazine. In fact, it's not going to be the same worn-out and thoroughly disproved knee-jerk nutrition speak that even your medical doctor gives you about low-fat diet and exercise. Now, it's not that those things are bad. In fact, exercise can be extremely beneficial to the body, but even that may not necessarily be in the way that you think. And it definitely isn't going to be a newfangled, cutting-edge, twig and berries nutrition garbage your new-age yoga tree-loving sister-in-law from Austin keeps trying to get you to try. It is going to be the latest scientific research on nutrition that is available. It is often going to surprise you, sometimes shock you, and occasionally make you mad. And you know what? I hope it does make you mad. And I hope, no, it's my desire that you take that anger and channel it into motivation and action. The motivation and action that is needed to take claim of your right to real health. It is my hope that this information will enable you to answer those individuals who are working against your right of real health with a slap in the face. Oh yes, my listening audience. There are those who do not want you to succeed. And we will also identify these individuals, groups, or organizations as much as possible. This is going to be a nutrition radio show like none other that you have ever heard. So are you ready? Then grab another cup of hot steaming mocha and give me the next 20 minutes or so of your undivided attention. So you know, a little bit earlier, I talked about that we're going to go over the latest nutrition news. Right here in front of me, I actually have a study that was recently done, published in the Western Farm Press. It's an agricultural magazine. And it's actually talking about how walnuts may have been found to actually help battle prostate cancer. Have you ever heard that information? Well, it's interesting that now in the British Journal of Nutrition, that is exactly what's been found. In fact, researchers at the University of California, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Western Region Research Center in Albany, California, they found that prostate tumors in mice that were fed the human equivalent of 3 ounces per day of walnuts were approximately 50% smaller and even grew 30% slower than prostate tumors in the control mice. They also found that lower plasma insulin-like growth factors, which are called IGFs, by the way, those insulin-like growth factors, it was a biomarker that was strongly associated with prostate cancer. And when the mice were fed those walnuts, it also lowered LDL, which is quote-unquote considered the bad cholesterol, as well as found distinct differences in their liver metabolism. In plain words, bottom line, walnuts are good for you, and they may actually be protective in some ways against certain forms of diseases. So that's just one thing about how food can actually be beneficial to your health. Not only beneficial, but also preventative to many of the things that we are concerned about today. In fact, this is going to be a large portion of my radio show as far as how food, and when I say food, I mean real food. I am not referring to what we typically eat and grab from the grocery store. If it's boxed, if it's packaged, if we throw it in the microwave or nuke it, so to speak, that is not real food. In fact, that is a food product. Now, what is the difference? What is the difference between real food and food products? Well, think about it like this. Your car is manufactured in a factory nowadays, maybe not even necessarily by human hands. There's actually car manufacturers that are using robotics more and more. And so even humans are kind of being removed from a lot of the manufacturing process. It's extremely mechanical. Well, the same thing is with our food and those food products. When you have a packaged food in a box that's frozen, you grab it, you throw that into the microwave, that product has actually been completely manufactured. Now, what's wrong with that? What is the problem with that? Why could that be detrimental to our health? Instead of life-giving, why could it actually slowly, perhaps even kill us? Well, let me explain. One of the main things about food products is that during the manufacturing process, all of the nutrition that our bodies require in order to be healthy has been completely removed. But some say, right on the box it says it's wholesome, it's enriched, etc. Well, what does it mean for a product to be enriched? It sounds good, doesn't it? But in reality, what it means is that once during the manufacturing process, those nutrients have been removed, that the manufacturer decides to spray back into that mush of food-like substance a few cents worth of synthetic fractionated vitamin-like molecules. Now, does that sound healthy? In fact, if you turn over your box and look at the nutrition facts label, and you see those lists of different B vitamins, when you take a look at specifically like B12, everyone thinks that B12 is going to give you lots of energy, and it can. Lots of people go out there and they get injections of B12, and they feel like they have more energy. But really, what is that substance? Is that B12 something that they would actually encounter as they ate real food that's unprocessed? That's a good question. Well, if you take a look at the box that you're looking at with the nutrition facts label, beside it or in the ingredients list, you're going to find a chemical name that refers to that B12. And what you're going to find is the name cyanocobalamin. Now, when you see cyanocobalamin, that is actually the chemical name of the form of vitamin B12 that they've put in that product. Now, what did they use in order to extract that form of B12? Seems like that would be a good question. If we're interested in building our health, if we want to make sure that what we are giving our body as not only fuel, but the very materials of which our body regenerates, we want to be sure that what we're putting into our mouth is actually what the body needs. So again, I ask you, where did that cyanocobalamin come from? Well, in reality, they extract it from cyanide. From cyanide. Can you believe that? Now, is that molecule similar to something that might be found in food? It is similar, but it is definitely not exact. In fact, the body has to convert that molecule into something that it can actually use, the real form of B12, of which is actually found in unprocessed whole food. So what is the name of that real form? The real form that the body uses or tries to convert that cyanocobalamin into is called methylcobalamin. Now, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to go to the store, any store, or to a health food store. Look on the nutrition facts label for their listing of vitamin B12 and find any one of those cereals that lists methylcobalamin as the B12. You won't find it. It simply isn't available. So what does that mean? That means that even if the cereal, for example, that you're eating is the best in the world, is the most wholesome, organic, prayed over, meditated over substance on earth, that if it does not have the molecules of what actually you would find as far as the nutrients within food, then you're giving your body something that is actually counterfeit. Now, does a counterfeit product sound like it's something that is going to increase your health? I find it unlikely that you do. So let's talk about more news. That was just one. I have a whole pile of different studies in here. This one, the headline is, New FDA Analysis Finds Lead in all, notice that, in all 400 lipstick products that they tested. Now, what do you know about lead? Lead is a toxic metal. In fact, there are laws against lead paint, using it, and of course, if there is lead paint in homes or other facilities, there are heavy regulations of which have to be followed for the removal of that lead paint because they have found it to be incredibly toxic and damaging to your health. Now, were you aware that the majority, if not most, if not all, lipsticks contain lead? Now, lead being a toxic metal is also a mineral. Now, for many of you, this may be a slightly new concept, that a metal is a mineral. But this is an incredibly important concept to keep in mind, because if you have it in the back of your mind, one day, at some point, it may very well protect your health. So listen carefully. Now, we know that our body requires certain minerals in order to be healthy. Most of us are aware of calcium. We hear about calcium protecting our bones. Calcium does many other kinds of processes within the body other than just bones. For one thing, it is a mineral that your thyroid uses in order to modulate the rate of metabolism of that gland. It is also used to control the rate of your heartbeat. And there are hundreds of other processes that just that one mineral, just calcium, also does in the body. Now, what you probably haven't really thought of before is that calcium is actually a metal as well. Now, there are other minerals that our body needs, of course. And another one is actually magnesium. Now, they're actually turning more and more attention to magnesium because many studies are coming out finding that people are extremely deficient in magnesium. And magnesium may soon become the new wonder mineral. So just keep that in mind. Remember that when you start reading it in articles about how incredible and how fantastic magnesium is, which it is, You heard it here first, though. Don't forget that. Anyway, magnesium. Magnesium is used in construction of many products. I like video photography, and one of the things that I use is a tripod that is constructed out of magnesium. So my point to that is that magnesium is also a metal. Now, let's get back to lead. So we think of lead mainly as a metal. However, it is a mineral. Now, let me ask you a question. I just want you to think about it for a moment. Do you think right now, as you sit in your chair or drive your car or whatever activity is that you're doing right now as you're listening, do you think that your body is replete, which means has exactly the amount that your body needs in order for perfect, healthy function? Do you think that your body is replete in every mineral it needs? Well, I can tell you that even I, even though for well over a decade have been extremely serious about my health and have taken many supplementation and eat as well as I possibly can, even I am not confident that my body has every one of the minerals it needs in the full amount that it needs it in order to be healthy. Now here is where lead comes in to this discussion. Remember, lead, although a metal, is also a mineral. And so if we are deficient in certain minerals, well, the body is incredibly designed. And so it will use what it has available. And so if we are deficient in a mineral that the body needs in order to be healthy that is similar to lead, guess what the body will do? It will start using lead in its place. So the idea is, as according to what the FDA stated on their website about lead, is that there's an idea that, if you put a little bit of lipstick on your lips, there's a little bit of lead in there, and so it's not really going to affect you. But the body absorbs that. And every time you put it on your skin, it absorbs more of it, and it will take it into your cells, and those cells will begin using it as a mineral that it needs. The problem is even though it may help the body do certain functions, it will also create extreme detrimental effects. The other problem with that is that until you get the proper mineral or minerals that your body is actually needing and in the proper amounts, your body will continue to use that lead along with the detrimental effects from it for as long as it needs to. So even though there may be small amounts of lead in a lipstick that you use or your wife uses or your girlfriend uses or your daughter or your sisters use, keep in mind that that lead continually builds up over time. Now, you may be wondering, well, what are some of the lipsticks that were tested? Well, you can go again to the FDA.gov website, and they will have a list of the different 400s. But here are just some of the ones that you might be more familiar with. The names are from Maybelline, L'Oreal, CoverGirl. So these are not ones that are not common. These are very common lipsticks around. Now, also, don't be deceived by names of products. For example, there are certain products that try to name themselves in ways that it sounds like it's wonderful. One of them is like minerals. Well, remember our discussion that metals are also minerals. And so just because a cosmetic company uses a name that sounds innocuous, it certainly isn't, because they can contain many of those metals that might be damaging to our body. And usually they do. So just keep that in mind. So what other nutrition news is out there? Well, moving along, there's another article. This is actually quite recent. As of February the 19th, let's see. That's just a few days ago, actually about a week ago as you're listening to this. What has been found is that baby formula is containing high amounts of arsenic. Let me repeat that. It is being found that some baby formulas are containing high amounts of arsenic. Now, you probably want to know a little bit more about that, so let me go into a little bit further detail. what they're finding is that the baby formulas that contain brown rice syrup actually have fairly high concentrations of arsenic in them. And the reason for it is, according to this article, new study, is that brown rice has a propensity for drawing the arsenic out of the soil, more so than other types of grains. So that is something to keep in mind. There are many cereal bars, protein bars, different kinds of products. And of course, keep in mind what we already discussed about products, but especially the ones of which people try to be a little bit healthier, and so they're eating a little bit differently, going away from wheat and gluten and going more into the rice, or if they're trying to stay away from corn syrup or different kinds of sugars, they may use brown rice syrup products. And so just keep in mind that it may be that those brown rice products, brown rice syrup products, also contain arsenic. Now, some may say, well, but you know, what I do is use only organic products. Well, that's very good. Don't let me discourage you in the use of organic products. I do the same thing myself. However, you have to realize that even though the rice is organic, it still will take up into itself the minerals or the substances that are in the soil. And if any kinds of pesticides, fertilizers have ever been used that are chemical in nature in that soil, regardless of how long ago, then if that arsenic is there from those sources, that brown rice will take it up, and it will also be in organic products as well. So another article that is coming out, and these are actually many studies that are finding this, is about broccoli and cruciferous vegetables and all. Now, cruciferous vegetables, obviously, it does contain broccoli, but there's also cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, and kale, and all those things that our kids don't like to eat. Now, what are they finding out about these cruciferous vegetables as they study them? Well, there's something very interesting and very exciting about it. Now, there is a molecule called a glucosinolate. Glucosinolate. And basically what they're finding is that this particular molecule greatly activates certain forms of eliminatory processes within the liver and other eliminatory organs that contain similar pathways. A pathway is basically a means for the body to use enzymes and different kinds of biochemicals in order to detoxify and cleanse the body of detrimental toxins. So one thing that I want to bring to your attention, though, is that even though this is exciting information about what they're finding, it actually isn't new. In fact, cruciferous vegetables and the qualities within them have really been closely studied for nearly a century. That's right, I said they've been studied for nearly a century. So, keeping that in mind, what are they finding that some of these chemicals in cruciferous vegetables are doing? Well, in reality, to make a long story short, they are finding that the glucosinolates are actually extremely cancer preventative. They are finding, mainly because the studies are going in this direction at the moment, they're finding that they may be preventative or helpful in breast cancers. So if you have a wife or you yourself are female, certainly that is something that you wish to keep in mind, that cruciferous vegetables of all kinds are definitely known to contain not only glucosinolates, but many other phytochemicals, phyto meaning plant-based, phytochemicals that can be cancer preventative due to increasing certain forms of detoxification pathways within the body. So that's pretty exciting, actually. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about, just briefly, is a nutrient in the body that is so important that the body manufactures it itself, that there is a large portion of this nutrient within the brain, that many, if not all, of our cells use this particular nutrient in order to maintain stability, which means that if it didn't have this nutrient, the cells would actually fall apart. Now, since our body is made up of at least 100 trillion cells, it's probably not a good idea if we're missing this nutrient because we want to keep our body together. So what is this nutrient? Well, it's not something that you commonly have thought of as a nutrient. Are you ready for what it is? It's cholesterol. Oh my goodness, I said the bad word, didn't I? I said cholesterol. Now, did you realize that cholesterol is a nutrient? Now, what is the definition of nutrient? Well, the definition of nutrient is something that the body needs in order to nourish and maintain its processes, its life. Well, that sounds pretty important. So, why has cholesterol gotten such a bad rap? Well, we hear about two forms of cholesterol mainly, right? We hear about the good cholesterol, which is the HDL. HDL is considered the good cholesterol. And then we hear about LDL. And basically, the story goes that we need to watch what we eat, stay away from fats, stay away from red meat, because if we eat those things, then we're going to have increased cholesterol levels within our body, and that will lead to cardiovascular disease. Now, we've been hearing about this for many, many years. In fact, probably many of you listening are actually on cholesterol-lowering medications. Possibly not because you have heart disease, but as a prevention to heart disease. And there certainly is nothing wrong with trying to prevent such diseases, is there? But remember what I said at the very beginning, as I was introducing my new show, Health Alert, that I want to bring to you what science is actually saying. Now, I'm sure you assume that what your medical doctor has told you is exactly what science is saying. Well, let's go over some of these facts together. Okay? Now, in the medical textbook that your medical doctor has probably studied when he was in medical school, they, of course, talk about cholesterol. In fact, in the textbook of medical physiology on page 848, it actually mentions food and cholesterol and what happens when someone eats foods that are higher in cholesterol. Here's what it says, and I quote from the book, Textbook of Medical Physiology on page 848. It says here, an increase in the amount of cholesterol ingested each day increases the plasma concentration. Plasma concentration means in the blood. It says increases the plasma concentration. How much? Does it say a lot? No. It says slightly. Let me read that again. An increase in the amount of cholesterol ingested each day increases the plasma concentration slightly. It says plasma cholesterol concentration usually is not changed upward or downward more than 15% by altering cholesterol in the diet. But what we hear constantly from media sources is eat saturated fats, eat beef, and you're going to have high cholesterol. That's the reason. And in fact, that isn't true. That is not what even the medical textbooks say. Well, what we're going to do is next week, we're going to pick up this discussion about cholesterol. We're going to be considering those two studies, and we're going to be looking at them and seeing what they actually say. If indeed they do prove that there is a definite link between cholesterol and heart disease. These are things that we should be interested in. There is nothing that you have that is more valuable than your health. Your car is not more valuable. Your bank account is not more valuable. Your job is not more valuable. Your home is not more valuable. If you do not have health, you will end up not having anything. Because without health, we cannot produce those very things mentioned. We cannot have participation and interrelationships and with our family. We won't be around to enjoy our children and grandchildren and the relationships of those of our friends. Your health is vital, and real health is something that you must work towards. So I encourage you to tune in next week where we pick up the discussion about cholesterol.